I'm in 5 bands. Tyro, Dyecrest, Facto, Northern Seer, and Everfrost. And on top of these, I do some side projects from time to time, but those are my main bands where I participate in the songwriting and the production, and I'm a full-time member, and we do live shows and stuff. So some of the other projects I have are like Hevisaurus, this children's metal stuff, Delirium's Order, which was like a crazy, creative, technical death metal thing. We played in Tuska and one acoustic show. So those were a lot of fun, but yeah, those 5 are my my full-time commitments, my full-time bands. Yeah, well, the thing is, like, I wouldn't necessarily call them power metal. I really like melodic metal, which has clean singing, of course with some harshness, but not like a grunting style vocal. This kind of metal. For example, Dyecrest, I would say it's more like modern melodic metal than power metal. Northern Seer could be even considered something like speed metal, and Everfrost could be considered symphonic metal. And Tyro is not power metal at all. I would consider it more like a traditional heavy metal and hard rock. So actually, maybe the only band that I would call power metal would be Facto. We even had the tagline, "Make power metal great again." But still, even in that band, many reviews have said that the debut album we just released is very guitar-driven and sounds more like 80s Maiden and Dio and Yngwie Malmsteen. So I think it's maybe a bit misconception that all of my bands are power metal. Maybe not even one of them is actually purely power metal. But it depends how do you define power metal. If you define power metal to be something like Dio, Iron Maiden, and Yngwie Malmsteen as well, as a more broad concept, then yes, maybe you could say all of them go into that kind of area in heavy metal music. Well, my earliest recollections of singing and starting to find my own voice was in kindergarten, when actually one of my caretakers there said that, or they gave me the nickname, the resonance box, because I was making all kinds of sounds, like if I would listen to some music and there was a guitar solo, I would be like shit like this. So people found it funny, the adults, and they gave me this nickname. But actually starting to like seriously thinking that I would start singing was around 10 years ago. I would say maybe 2008. And I guess I just sang some karaoke with my family. I think it was like an Iron Maiden karaoke because I loved Iron Maiden. And I actually used to play bass, and that's how I really got into heavy metal and music. And in this karaoke I started singing Iron Maiden, and I guess my parents were like, "Hey, you have like a lot of stuff is coming out, so maybe you should start singing." And then I went to YouTube and I found people doing vocal covers of metal songs, and I really loved those, so I wanted to try those, and I made my first one, which was, I think, Blind Guardian's Skulls and Shadows, which I just put the camera on and I just sing in my parents' basement in front of the camera. You can still find it in YouTube. And that was my first thing, and then I got some encouraging comments, so I started to do more covers, and eventually I started my first band, Northern Seer, and then the rest is history. Dream cooperation. I think that would be with Arjen Lucassen. I love his music. I think he's a genius. I've seen his concerts as well a couple of times, the Electric Castle thing and Aryan Universe. And it's just, the music is just so rich, and I love how he presents the singers in the music. He really, even though he's an instrumentalist, he really thinks about the singers, and he thinks about voices, and I've watched some of his making of things, and he gets excited when a singer does something with a lot of personality, and I really like that. I would love to be part of some of his projects in the future. That would be a big dream. Touring wise, I would love to tour with some of my favorite bands, because just because I could maybe talk to them, you know, backstage and tour buses and stuff. Something like Blind Guardian, Iron Maiden, Symphony X, Gaunerius, Anthem, those kinds of bands. It will be super amazing to hang out and talk about their music, which I love so much. Yeah. Well, I graduated from Haga Hilia, which is a University of Applied Sciences here in Helsinki. It was a degree program of international business. I used to study one semester sales in Finnish, but I didn't find that to be my thing. I just felt it wasn't maybe my thing. And then when I kind of discovered this tutoring of exchange students and stuff, I really got excited about the international side of things. So I applied for international business. That was 3.5 years degree. I did it in like 4.5, 5 years because I went to Japan for 1 year to study as an exchange student. I used to teach Finnish and English language there as a part-time job to get money for nights out. And well, Japanese I discovered after my military service in 2014. The military ended and I didn't have a studying place yet, and I was like, hey, I have a faint interest in Japanese culture, so I'm just gonna start. So on January 1st 2014 I was like, today I start, and that's from there I've continued. I think it's really important to if you don't have a passion or a hobby you really like, it's not necessarily like a thunderstruck thing that I love this immediately. I think it's really important to look at something, this is quite interesting. And then when you delve into it and study, then you might create this big passion. So if you're one of those people, then, you know, think about your faint interests, and then if you could cultivate those to passions. That's my recommendation that nobody asked for, but I gave it anyway. This fall I really, or my bands Everfrost and Metal Facto released their albums, Winter Rider and Imperium Romanum. They got a great response. I'm really proud of those albums. Future projects that I have coming up would be, so Tyro and Northern Seer released their first albums. The Northern Seer album we've been working for ages. We started around 2013, and the main reason I think that it was delayed so much was just we weren't good enough. Finally, we have the skill and know-how now to finish the album. And then Tyro debut album, we just finished drums and bass tracking, and guitars are being recorded as we speak. We aim to get the master ready in January, so that would mean a late spring, early summer release, depending how fast we get a good deal, record deal for the album. But I'm really excited for both. Northern Series more, I play bass and sing in that one, and it's a kind of a speed metal, like really raw, no edits, very raw and organic album. Tyro is just like full on, you know, balls and heavy metal and just like, you know, pure adrenaline. So put that on when you go to the gym. Well, everyone knows arigato and konnichiwa and stuff like that. So if I would teach some Japanese for a metalhead, I would teach something more not so, you know, well known. So if you're in a bar and you want someone to like really drink, you want them to finish their drink with like one gulp, like kind of how you say chug in English and American culture. You can say iki. So remember that one when you go to Japan for a metal festival like Loud Park or Download or something. So thanks, tak, arigato gozaimasu, kiitos to Stalker magazine for organizing this interview and having the interest in indie artists, small artists like me. So thanks a lot for the support, and thanks for the fans and followers and people who have checked out my stuff. I'm really grateful, and I hope to see you in the shows. Heavy metal lives on.